Well, when somebody looks at this tape,
Helen, it's
okay,
recording
good.
now.
Somebody looks at this tape, they're going to say, what? Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Sharon, this is really an interactive class. So if you don't have clay, it's probably going to be a very short class today, okay?
Understand.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah, I read the directions. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So I'm Helen and I teach at the Benson Center. Is that the center you usually go to?
No, I go to Bowden.
Bowden, okay. And did you say you had a fire at your house?
I did. It was a small fire, but it ended up, being a large repair.
Now we have somebody who just signed on, Daniel and Vicky. So if you could turn on your microphone, Daniel and Vicky, because I need to ask you something. Just click on the little button with the little microphone. Sculptures, and I mean like small, okay? Maybe 6 inches high, out of clay. We will end up firing these eventually, but the reason why we're going to make these small scale sculptures, and it's going to be based on the elements, fire, water, wind, and earth, okay? And hopefully we get through all 4, is so that you number one, you get a chance to work with the clay, see how it feels like, and the technical aspects of it. And we're working on a small scale, so it should be easy. Also, when you make a small sculpture, we do call it a maquette, but it's kind of like a sketch. And if you made like 3 or 4 of them and you really liked one of them, then you can take the class again or take a class, in sculpture, and you can make it on a larger scale, maybe about, 12 inches tall. And it'll be a fantastic sculpture you can put on your mantelpiece. How's that? Okay. So I'm going to do a little PowerPoint. The first element we're going to cover is fire. All right. So when I say it's going to be your expression of fire. So it's going to be based on your experience. Well, Sharon, you just had a fire. So you got a lot of it means something really personal to you right now, right? So whatever you create, so you don't have to make it look like real fire. It's your expression of fire, okay? You're the author of it. And the more you relate it to your personal experience, the more energy it's going to end up having, okay? When you work with clay, you're actually directly putting energy into the clay. Metaphysically speaking, I guess. And it shows, it's going to show. So if a machine made a sculpture, it might be kind of more on the cold feeling side. Whereas if a 5-year-old made a sculpture, it might look wonky, but it's going to have a lot of feeling, isn't it? So those of us who have grandchildren who, do artwork, I mean, some of the drawings, especially the small kids, they might be like not correct. But man, aren't they just unique and have lots of personal expression? So what you're going to focus is on really getting in touch with inside of yourself what fire means to you, okay? And you get to express it, whatever way. And there's no right or wrong. You don't listen to any of the critics. You don't listen to anybody in your family. You just don't tell them anything because it's your expression of fire. And that's all that matters. So it's kind of like practicing standing up for yourself, all right? You've seen a lot of the recent artwork. They look like blobs or just ugly stuff. Well, you go, okay, I don't like it. It's really horrible. And it doesn't even look like there's any skill involved. But you know what? The artist decided it's his expression and he's going to stand by it. And more power to him if he, believes in himself and everything. So, it's also practicing not listening to other people tell you how things should be, kind of like thing. Okay, so let's talk about fire, and we're gonna have an interactive session, so you need to turn your mics on. But I just looked it up on the internet, and it says, fire symbolizes many things, including passion, desire, rebirth, you know, like Atlanta rebirth out of the ashes, resurrection, I don't know what that is, eternity, maybe, I guess, destruction, that applies to Sharon right now, hope. So for some people, it might represent hell, and for some people, it might be purification. Okay, so maybe if you think about when you were a kid, what fire represents to you, okay, maybe some of us actually stuck our hand in the flame and it hurt. So it might, you know, that might be or you got burnt, okay? And that might be a traumatic experience, and a fire might represent pain to you, okay? So we're gonna kind of talk about that. For me, I love fire, okay? I also take some classes and teach at Chastain Art Center. And one of the classes I take is metalsmithing, which is jewelry class. And we use a torch, you know, and we blast the metal with a torch and we melt the silver and all that kind of fun stuff. I just love it. Also, I'm not a pyromaniac, all right? But I just love fire. You know, when I was a kid and we go camping, whoa, man, I was the one in charge of that campfire, and I loved it. And I knew exactly how to stoke it so that, you know, it would keep burning and keep it contained and keep it going. In fact, when we had an ice storm or something here in Atlanta I think we didn't have power for a week in Sandy Springs. I lived in a house back then. We had a fireplace. So my husband, totally useless. He's now my ex. But I was the one who kept that fireplace running, kept us warm, and, you know, had the pots and pans there and everything. So I love fire. Plus my astrology sign is Leo's. It's a fire sign. Maybe that has something to do with it. But, you know, and I'm a ceramics major from Georgia State from a long time ago. And one of our things we had to learn how to do is fire the huge gas kilns. And they had like, I don't remember, it was 4 or 6 burners on the bottom of this big brick kiln. And we would rip up the fire flames, and we had fire shooting in there. And then we would close the damper and fire shooting out all the cracks. And I really liked that. Okay, so enough of me liking fire. So for me, you know, it's probably passion, you know, and things like that. So Sharon, what is it for you?
It's been I light a match. I mean, I'm a candle lover, so I constantly have candles going. If I have a death, you know, of any friend or anything, I just get a ugly old broken plate and I put a candle in the middle. Maybe a burned down taper candle is just got a little enough. That's enough, and I light that, and it helps, gives me comfort. But other than that, I love to soot. I think it soots up your ceiling, they say, but people give me gifts. That when they give me a gift, they know to give me candles.
So for you, would you say that the flame is more subtle and calming, maybe?
Very much.
Yeah, so it's a quiet inner peace kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah, and I think you can choose a relaxation picture on my Comcast. You can choose a sound to go to sleep by, so I sort of like get the fire logs. And
really?
And on the other hand, I have a brand new grill on the way this week, so I want to try to do some barbecuing, like you said, minus a husband. The meat won't get charred up.
And your laundry stays safe.
Yeah.
That's a big one, isn't it? I'll never forget when all my sweaters got shrunk at one time. I cried and cried. Okay, what about Vicki? What's fire mean to you? Does it mean destruction or what?
Well, I'm a native Atlantan, and when I always think about a new beginning, out of the flames of being burned in Sherman, Atlanta took off and had a new beginning. Out of the flames of Hiroshima, Japan had a new beginning. So I like to think of fire as formative, and it's just something that erupts into something that's going to be new and different and sometimes better.
So it kind of destroys the old and creates
the new.
The new. Yeah. Does that have something to do with volcanoes too? Volcanoes erupting, maybe? I don't know. Was
The
it?
earth was formed out of fire, so to speak, whether it was in a historical or whether it was spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
a new beginning. In the beginning, something happened, came forth, and they show our core is very, very hot,
Wow.
like the volcano, very
Yeah.
eruptive when it brings everything forth. Like
Yeah,
it's
just like a zit exploding.
not that hard.
Not like that. Okay. So if we were going to talk about shapes like a square, a circle, a rectangle, in a triangle or a trapezoid, what shape do you think we could use to represent fire? What do you think, Sharon? What shape?
I would think I'm thinking of a rectangle, and then I thought of a triangle after that. But if you have like, I mean, it depends on the length, right? A rectangle and then a triangle.
I don't know. Yeah. What about Vicky? What's it to you?
I see the circles. When I look at a flame, I always look at like when I light a match. At the core of that match, I see a circle.
Well,
and
that's interesting.
very circular, even when it spins off.
Uh-huh.
Make that
Yeah, and also, the circle is kind of like that snake, that's biting its tail. And so it's like a cycle of life, So destruction, rebirth, destruction, rebirth. That's interesting. So I chose triangle for me, okay? Each person's going to be different. So it was more, for me personally, it was more of a reaching up, more like that kind of feeling, a movement upwards kind of feeling. But for each person it's going to be different. And Sharon, you said a flame was calming and everything for you, so that's why you may have thought a rectangle.
The rectangle, the log.
Yeah, it's
calm. But if I light a stick match, that circle that Vicky's talking about is there in that stick match. It starts out with a circle. And then and it stays there.
But that's physically what it looks like. But feeling wise, it might be a different shape, right? You never know. So we have one triangle here, and then if you put several triangles, basically that's a bonfire, isn't it? Let's see what other sculptors did. Okay, so these are kind of like literal representations of fire, right? The spinning, the twirling. To me, the one in the middle doesn't work. The wood bothers me. The top part feels like flames, literal representation of flames, but the wood gives me a more of an earthy feeling. So I don't feel like it's got that what do you call it? Rising kind of feeling. Yeah. I love this one. What do you think about this one? I think that's super simple. But to me, it feels like it's a flame and it's rising up.
You see the circle?
Yeah. And then so that could be yours, Vicky. That could be that circle. And then the rebirth, going up, right? Like resurrection. Okay. So that's an interesting representation. Here's a funny one. See the one on the left? It looks like a red Hershey's Kisses. To me, if it wasn't red, it wouldn't look like fire to me. What do you think? Does that look like fire to you? Maybe the color red does, but not so much the shape for me.
No. But I'm thinking, I thought of fig. Right away, I saw figs.
A fig. Yeah, it looks more like a fig or a funny looking pear. Okay. But what about the one on the right? That's not bad. That kind of, I don't know what those orange dots are though, round circles are. I think if it didn't have the red, orange, yellow circles, maybe it would work for me. Even if this was not in red, I think it would work for me. But you know what? I think the artist maybe incorporated those yellow spears because they also look like people. Does it look like people to you? See, they look like some of the heads and they're joyfully,
with red
capes. So that's that's interesting, isn't it?
Red capes, they're choir robes. Red capes. The so dancers. Yeah.
This is a actual clay artist, and she actually made these out of porcelain, and it's very difficult and challenging. I'm sure she's broken a lot of pieces. So These are more like literal interpretations, but what about the one on the right? Does it look like fire to you? Some parts does, right? But does that look more plant-like to you? It does to me. Yeah.
It's, the only thing fiery is the color, the amber.
You're right.
But the rest is.
So, you know, it's her interpretation. And here's
the arugula lettuce.
Ah, now that's a flame.
I thought, at first I thought, man, that's not anything to do with fire, but because of the way the sunlight hits it, I think it works there when the sunlight hits it and gives it that glow. But otherwise, if you cover that part up, it really looks like ice, upside down icicles or something. Yeah. But the feeling of it like being like painful, pointy, that could be interpreted as fire too. Okay. And here's an interesting one, very simple, but I think it does look like a, you know, feels like, and I always go by feeling. I think the top part especially feels like a flame. It's like, it's almost like yours, Sharon, kind of calming in a way, you know, strong, stable, solid, you know, kind of calming, but it has that little flicker, you know, so really cool. All right, and here's one that's more literal, probably, and this is probably made out of clay, okay? Maybe more chaotic. What do you think? Busy, chaotic, maybe. I don't know about this one, you know? To me, it seems chaotic. What about to you guys? You don't know which way it's going.
Well, it's like uncontrollable because sometimes flames can't be controlled. So it's swirling and it's going in all kinds of, it looks like it's building strength from within.
Oh, it's kind of chaotic too, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. Okay.
You don't know which direction it's going to go into.
So this could be like a house on fire. Out of control. I thought this was interesting because it doesn't have those pointed elements. It's basically like, you know, thin, long rectangles, but it still feels like kind of fire-like, you know, there's movement.
Like passion of fire, you know, like people, looks like groups of people, and as they erupt into flames, especially the one in the very middle at the bottom, the one in shadows. Like it started with that one person's passion because the little arms that look like they're lifting up, and everybody else fed off of that person's inner rage.
So next time I need an artist statement on my artwork, I'm gonna hire Vicky.
She is an artist.
Like an inner rage because that one little shadow will figure in the middle started everything.
Keep in mind with sculpture, you have to look at all around it. It's not just the front. We can only see a frontal view right now, but who knows what it looks like on the other side, you know? So, and on the next one, this one is made out of clay. And these are actually called flame pots. These are prehistoric Japanese flame pots around 800 to 300 BC. And the archaeologist is who you know, named it flame pots, but they do look like flames, you know, the little tiny flames. And, you know, it could be that people were sitting around the hearth and building these in the winter time. And they were inspired by the flames or something. Basically, they're ceremonial cooking pots, you know. Okay, so now how are we going to interpret this with clay? Let's see. So if you happen to have clay, I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do, and what I do is not the same thing as what you're going to do, okay? So you're going to get a bag of clay, if you can, and what you do need is technical part here. You need like something sturdy, like a piece of wood or just want a piece of tile, so that you can move around the piece and work on the surface. And a little bit about clay. Who's worked with clay before? Anybody? You, okay. All right, so Sharon, when we work with clay, you can, like, let's say your piece dried out or you didn't like it, you can put it back in the bag, re-wet it, and reconstitute it, okay? Now, What I do, I live in a tiny condo. I don't have access to the outside. So I have a little thing of water. And basically for tools, you probably just need sponge. And if you want, you can find something you could carve with. I just happen to have clay tools, and you can go to Davins and just buy this. You can get the clay at Davins also, okay? They're about, they come in 25-pound bags, and it's about, I'm gonna say it's about 20 bucks, including tax, okay? And you'll get a 25-pound bag, means you're gonna make a lot of stuff, right? So you can make more than one. You can make a big piece if you want. But
I got some at Hobby Lobby.
they sell clay there?
I went to Hobby Lobby and they had some of those little boxes of clay. They had them on sale for $17. So one box. I didn't buy a lot.
Yeah. I recommend you work with the clay. I think in the description, I tell you what kind of clay to get. I recommend you work with that because it's kind of a off-white color. It's not pure white, but it's a very forgiving clay. Okay. So um, if you need to patch things up or something, it's easier than other clays. Okay. And then eventually, you know, we'll fire them in the kiln. Let's see, which center are you at, Vicki?
I took a class at your center with you.
You took a class with me? Okay.
You showed
You
me
came all the way from somewhere and took a class with me, right? Did you ever pick up your pieces? I don't think you picked up your pieces.
I didn't get my pieces, no.
Well, I think you have two of them sitting there. You need to come by and pick them up.
You didn't get rid of my pieces.
No, I don't get rid of people's pieces. No.
I'm still at the beginning stage, so don't worry.
That's okay. I think it still came out okay. So we use the B-mix clay that's described in your thing, and Davins is located in Chambly inside the perimeter. They'll load up the clay in your trunk of your car if you want. And also while you're there, you know, maybe you want to pick up a tool or something, you know, you don't have to. You can use anything for a sponge. Let's see, the only thing to keep in mind is to cut the clay, you kind of need a wire cutting tool. So if you don't have one of these things, you just take a pencil and break it in half and find some very fine wire and wrap it up tightly, because it's kind of like cutting through cheese. So just to get it off the lump of clay, it's just a little bit convenient. So because I thought it's more like a triangle for me, the fire, maybe I'll start out with a triangle, okay? Okay, and then what you're gonna do is, since these are little maquettes, they're just little sketches, you're experimenting. You're trying to see, you know, this look like, is this what I wanna express? You know, like I said, I love fires. Maybe I want more than one kind of flame-like thing. Maybe I want like a bonfire, okay? Or maybe I want to, let me pull this down. Maybe I want to, let's just say I did the bottom, and maybe I want like chunks, like little, what is it called when the flame flies off of the main flame, flickers? Is that what it's called? Maybe I want that to happen. So maybe I'm thinking in terms of having that happen. So what if I wanted to, and this is the technical part you have to keep in mind, all right? So that's why you do a small piece as a sample first, because you got to work out the technical parts if you decide to do a larger piece. So maybe I wanted to have something like this come off of something like this, okay? So obviously that's not going to, you know, maybe I can get away with it, but most likely that's going to break. So I will plan ahead and make it so I can insert some kind of a little rod when it's fired and everything, and attach it there, right? So you got to think about things like that. Now, when you do the sculpture, technically, you know, we'll just use a lump of clay and everything, but after it's done, you're going to have to get rid of the excess. This isn't going to go make it through the kiln. It's too thick. So you would have to carve it out. And that's why this guy comes in handy. It's a small 6-inch one. It's not the big kind, because I can like gouge out chunks, okay? Now, because the clay is still wet while you're building it, you might think, let's say you built something that was like, hold on, my clay's kind of on the dry side. Yeah, Vicki, I remember your PC. I think you made a box and it's like a red underglaze and it's carved. It's really pretty. I'm going to have to get it if you don't come get it.
Wait, hold on. Oh, they're still on here. I had to log in.
Okay, so let's say I wanted to make something like this. And because the clay is wet, so it's sticking to my tile, and I think, oh, you know, it's going to stand up. Well, when it's dry and when it's fired, obviously it's not going to stand up. So I have to keep that in mind. And what I could do, if I really want it to be that way, I can make something inside here, like a bolt space. And, you know, you're going to want to make a little, have a wooden base, right? You can just, you know, go to a craft store and get something. And you can screw it onto a piece of wood so it stands up, all right? Now, when we make these, you might make one or two. And let's say you did the first one's the flame, so you have a week to do that. After you make it and, you know, carve out the excess because eventually you want to fire it, you want to put it like somewhere you see it every day. And then when you walk by it, you know, you go, you know, I think it needs to be tweaked a little bit. Maybe it should have, you know, lean a little bit forward, or maybe it should be taller. And, you know, so keep those notes in mind, and you might want to make another one because remember, if it dries out, you can reconstitute this until you get it the way you want.
So we got to make it, our assignment is to try to use our little small piece of clay like what you have right there, and try to form what my idea of a flame is.
Yes. Okay. And then eventually when you get it just the way you want it, you can make a big piece.
I don't want, you said with this is like small pieces. I always.
Yeah, this is a sketch like thing. Okay. It's a test piece. Okay. And then eventually you'll make, you know, if you really like what your thing came out looking like, you'll make a big piece, and then it'll have some technical difficulties, but that's something hopefully we can do in class eventually. You know, these things take a long time to dry and to make and to fire and all that. So probably next year sometime. And then you can make a big piece and you can enter into the art show and win a prize.
Okay.
Or sell it.
So
or enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, because you guys don't have clay on you, we're gonna have to cut this short, aren't we? Do you have any questions? Okay, so I'm going to just kind of play around with mine. It's probably not gonna be the end product.
Like what you're doing right there with your fingers.
Yeah, so so you don't need the tools. You just have to kind of like squish it, mush it, and then maybe I wanna see what it's like if I kind of make it not solid, you know, and make it more hollow. Okay, right now it's kind of on the solid side.
The examples that you showed us where where the people had different ideas about what the flame was, and then you just take that clay, and I assume we're gonna, oh, somebody's got their clay.
No, what is this? I bought it for my son because he really can mold. He can really, and it's called air dry clay.
Yeah,
it was $2.99. It's Crayola, and yeah. I just opened it, and it is getting hard. Can it be softened? I don't know.
I don't know if you can re-soften that one because, you know, clay is water-based, this kind of clay, so you can do it, but that's kind of like a plastic kind of thing. I had a hard time working with that when I work with kids.
Okay.
Because it kind of had to stretch and everything. If you get real clay, you'll find out, oh, it's lots of fun to work with, right, Vicki?
Like dirt.
Yeah, it's like playing with mud.
Yeah.
What you said, Vicki? It's like what?
Mine is like the one I bought is like dirt, like mud, like
yeah, clay. Different from that clay. So that's different from those little bars of clay they used to give us.
You have to get, see, I kind of want people to patronize Davin's Ceramic Center in Chambly, because that's the only place we have that you can buy clay and clay products, okay? And we want to keep them in business. Yeah, you can order clay from Amazon, but a 25-pound of clay is going to cost a lot in shipping, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And we want to keep Davins in business because, you know, I know people who live in certain cities and they have to drive like 100 miles to go get anything clay. And if you go to Davins, you'll see all kinds of end products and all kinds of tools and everything. It's really inspiring, I think. So if you can, just go get it from them. Unfortunately, we can't open Benson right now. So, you know.
So that's a 58-minute ride for me.
Whoa, where do you live?
I live in East Point, Georgia.
Okay. Yeah, it might be a field trip for you.
And I'm from Atlanta, just like Vicki.
So anyway, let's just say, yeah, but the clay is lots of fun. I'm trying to think who else would have it. I wonder if Dick Blick would have it.
Hobby Lobby in Mableton has it, and let's see.
Is it real clay, Hobby Lobby?
Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay. And it says
clay. I think, okay. And it's in plastic, so.
And you need to find out what temperature it fires to. That's important because I can't put something in the kiln that's going to melt. Okay.
No, it says it says pottery, you know, for.
Yeah. Okay.
So what else? You mentioned another place.
Saying small, you're gonna make small things. So I didn't get a giant box. I just got the little.
She said Hobby Lobby, Sharon.
Oh, she mentioned one other place, didn't you, Vicki?
I said Hobby Lobby.
Okay.
I don't think Walmart has it, but you could go online and see a Walmart and which location. I don't know. Walmart just has the little, like she said, the little tools that you can buy.
Oh, they have tools? Okay.
Little packages, the little small ones.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, whatever works, you know.
Use plastic forks and knives and
yeah, that's what I use. If you don't have tools, there's always the fork, there's always the knife, there's always the X-Acto knife, there's always a spoon, okay?
So do you have another tool besides that one in your right hand?
I have all kinds of tools. I was just
my house, I tend to have a lot of things around here.
Yeah, I have a ton of tools, and I was just trying to minimize what you need.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's why I said whatever works, you know, because you're basically doing a sketch. Now, one of the things you can do is like, let's say you kind of got the idea what you want, and you carved out the inside, made it kind of hollow, you know. Let's say this is completely hollow. I mean covered, okay? You could, remember you saw some that were carved, let me see if I can do it, not backwards, that were kind of like, what do you call it, carved out?
Like they carved a hole through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can try that, you know, you might break it, but like I said, you can reconstitute it, and because basically these are sketches, right? It's kind of like if you were doing sketches for an idea with pencil and paper, and you didn't like one, you would just crumple it up and throw it away, right? Well, these you don't have to throw away. You can just kind of like try different things. And at first it might be super messy and everything, you know, you're working on this, you're trying out this idea and that idea. And then when you get to a point where you think you really like what you've done, what you do is you either take out your squeezed out sponge, and probably any kind of sponge will work. If you wanted a smooth surface, maybe like a makeup sponge, you squeeze out the water, okay? And you try to, this becomes your sandpaper. You just keep working it, and it smooths out your piece real nicely. So these would probably be the techniques you will be using. Let me see if I can smooth that out a little bit better. Okay.
So you're in the center now, you're at your home. So we how do we get it into the stove, the kiln? Is it called a kiln?
Well, once it's dried out and done and we open the center, maybe we can schedule it so that you can drop it off at where I am, and then I'll have to fire it. Okay. And then
okay, so we got to go through that.
Okay, so let's say I did this, okay? And I smoothed it out and I thought, I still need something. One of the other things you can do is you can carve some texture in it. So I'll just carve lines, okay? And it's gonna make burrs and all that. It's gonna be messy. And let me get up a little bit closer if you can see this. Okay, so clay isn't like an instant process. It takes a while. You gotta like keep cleaning it and everything. So let's say I carve this out and see how it makes burrs. So I'll let it dry a little bit and then I'll keep working it. And let's say I let it set a little bit and let it dry a little bit. Then I can take out my squeeze out sponge again. Don't put sopping wet or don't make it sopping wet, okay? Because it'll dissolve your form.
Okay.
And what you're gonna learn is how much you can get away with, you know. This will teach you, you know, how skinny and tall you can make something before it falls over.
That's nice.
Yeah, so, you know, you can do all kinds of stuff.
That's amazing.
But it's a good way to get the feel for the clay, see how much you can push the clay. And let's say you made something and you really, okay, for example, like in Vicky's case, let's say she wanted to make a huge circle, okay? And let's say this was big, all right? And let's say this was like starting to collapse, all right? What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your clay again or something. You're gonna have to make a little pillow. Okay, pillow means you need to make something that's gonna give a little bit, okay? So I'm just gonna put a lump of clay, or you can have a can, and you can support it until it stiffens up. You know what I'm saying? So that this part doesn't sag if it had too much weight, okay? So see all the kind of cool things I just did, just playing around with it?
Could I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
So while you're propping that up and waiting on that to dry, it dries, but not as well as in the oven. So it won't, will it keep trying to fall, or will it dry? It's dry enough.
Once it stiffens up and dries, it'll stay that way. Okay. So see how the
purpose of using the oven is to keep it from what?
Okay.
Breaking?
So it's actually a kiln, and it goes up. We're going to fire it up to 1,900 degrees. So obviously, if you try that at your house, you'll have another fire, Sharon. So it's a special kiln. It's called a kiln, and I'll have to show you a picture, but
I must have done it in college because I remember the word, of course.
Okay, good. And I'll show you a picture right now, but see how if I wet it, I can actually do this. So you can play with this and just kind of like see what it does. It's kind of cool. Okay, let's say I got this like really wet and it was like really going to flop over. Sometimes I can figure out how to hang it upside down until it stiffens up. Okay. And once it stiffens up, I can upright it.
So how long does that take to stiffen up, to dry? Days?
That depends on if your AC's on, if you're blasting it with AC, or if you have it outside and it's humid. Now, what you don't want to do is dry it too fast. So you kind of have to loosely cover it with plastic and kind of air it out and keep checking it. This, because it's thin, if I leave it out, it'll stiffen up in about an hour because I have the AC on in this place and the air is kind of dry. If I put it outside because it's so humid, it's probably going to be like even 3-4 hours. It'd probably still be kind of like too soft. Okay, but I'm just to show you, I'm going to make this really thin. Okay, so you can see.
So at that point, you can't use it, and you can attach to it, but you can't change that anymore once it dries.
You can do once it completely dries. You have to reconstitute it before if you want to change it. Okay, before it dries, when it's still in the soft and mushy stage, you can move it around and everything. And I'm probably not going to get into like attaching stuff right now because I just want you to play with the clay. Okay, and this is a sketch thing anyway.
You want us to make something that resembles a flame.
Yeah.
Now,
for you, what it means.
Okay. And what it means. Okay.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna make this really thin. Okay. See how it's kind of flexible, and I don't want it to curve. I want it to go straight up. It might be tricky, but maybe I can get 2 boxes and somehow maybe put a rod here and suspend it until this guy dries. Mm-hmm. So it's doable. Okay. But the whole idea is for you to play with it, see what it does, get the feel of the clay, how far you can push something, because you can always toss this back in the bag and start all over, right?
It's got to represent something. It just can't.
For you, but it.
So I got three more layman questions, because I think Vicky's done this and I don't want to bore, but I always got it. Okay, no, so the surface you're working on is that?
She had a class. I attended one of her classes. Tell you, I made a pie. I made a square.
You catch on quick. You made a square.
See what I'm doing? I'm kind of playing with it. See, I'm just playing with it, and you need to play with it, Sharon. So you go.
Great.
Oh,
it's just
it's
gorgeous.
Yeah, you go. Oh, look what
like
it's like this. Look what it does. You know. So, and this is how you learn, by seeing, just by doing and seeing how far. So you're going to have to go back into your child and become 3 years old again and playing in the mud and go, oh, look, Mom, look what I can make.
Yeah.
And if it's too dry, you know, add some water and see what happens. Right? Okay, so I'm going to switch back to a different PowerPoint so you can, because you've never worked with clay before, okay? Oh, one thing, if you're in a condo like me, take a little thing of water, wipe as much of the clay as possible off, all right? Don't put this down your sink, all right? It's gonna clog up your sink eventually. You're gonna have to use paper towel. You will have to go through paper towels. Wipe off the clay as possible, and then you can go to the sink and wash your hands. Don't wipe it off on a towel, because your towel is gonna get full of clay, and you don't wanna put this in the washing machine. Okay.
That was my next question. That's exactly what I was going to ask. The surface that you're using, is that parchment paper or just a piece of plastic on a table?
No, this is, because I teach clay. This one I did go to Davins and get. It's like pressed paper. You can use canvas, or you could. A lot of times I'll use you know, those plastic cutting boards, and eventually you get so many cut lines on it. I'll use those. This is just a piece of tile I had made. Okay. Piece of wood, a book you don't want to read anymore, you know?
Yeah.
You might be wasting the book, but
a drawer liner, you know, you line your drawers and you peel the back off that.
Whatever works. You don't have to go and get specialty things unless you're going to be doing a lot of things.
I got my husband's yesterday's newspaper. I loaded it up in preparation for this, but that's in the other room. I couldn't get the camera to work. In the other room. But I set it up.
Maybe you have a tray, you know?
Yeah.
Somebody suggested like a cutting mat, sewing cutting mat.
Yeah. You know? Well, what about storing? What do you store it? Like when you're through for the evening to keep it kind of wet? What do you store it in? A plastic bag?
Okay, so once you made it, you don't want it to dry out, okay? Not quickly. So what I do is, let's see, where do I have one? Okay. You want to have some kind of buffer between your piece and whatever surface it's sitting on. So like newspaper, paper towel, whatever, because the clay is going to shrink and it needs to move. So this one, because it's almost dry, I have it it's like a bag, and the bag actually has little holes in it. And I didn't realize it also had a big hole. You just want it to dry slowly. So a soft plastic. And if you want it to stay real wet, because you want to work on it some more.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Cover it completely, like with soft plastic, like dry cleaning bag is what we use a lot. Saran wrap, you know, whatever. And if you reach the point where you want it to start drying, then I kind of put a loose bag over it, so you know that some of the moisture can come out.
Okay. How about arthritis? Is it good for arthritis when you have osteoarthritis in your fingers?
Somebody said it's good. I have arthritis, and somebody said it's really good. They said that piano players don't get arthritis because they're moving their fingers a lot. Okay. I don't know if that's true or not. Okay. All right. So
Thank you.
Yeah, keep asking questions because now's the time to ask, okay? I have to find another PowerPoint for you so I can show you what happens. Let's see, how do I do that? Oh, I know. Okay. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Okay, we'll do this one. And where did I go?
So I had an idea about circles, and Sharon had an idea about squares, and you had an idea about rectangles.
Yeah.
Are we gonna try to stick to that theme of things and design?
Well, whatever bubbles up. The
Okay,
whole point is not to think about it,
let's do.
but to feel it
Okay,
and to listen to your inner voice.
okay.
Um,
Feel it.
I think that's more important.
Feel
Okay,
the passion.
go ahead. Okay, this. Okay, so this is a gas kiln, and this is they just turn. They just put the burner. See the burners right here. Okay, that's why I like to fire. And then the whole inside of the kiln with, you know, but what we're going to do is we're going to use an electric kiln. Okay, and the pottery, the pieces will get put in the electric kiln, and then inside it's going to get this hot. Okay, this is a gas kiln, so that's why you have smokes, but in an electric kiln, you're not going to see the flames. It's going to get so hot that the pots are actually going to look like translucent. That's how hot it's going to get. So definitely your house will burn down, Sharon, if we try this in the oven. And the oven doesn't go that far high up. And then the end, we're going to fire it just once on your pieces. If you want it glazed, okay, which means you're putting a glass coating on it, which we don't have to do because this isn't a functional piece. It's not like you're going to drink out of it or something or eat out of it. I mean, I guess you can stick a piece of hunk of cooked meat on top of it and as a serving plate, but because we don't have to, we can do any kind of finish we want. So basically it's going to be a whitish clay. You can paint it with acrylic, okay? You can spray paint it. You can leave it alone. You can stain it with something. I think some people even rub shoe polish on theirs, you know, to give it that funny stain look. So you can do whatever you want with it, all right? If you want to glaze it, we can glaze it, but that's just the second step. That's another step, okay? So does that answer your question? Yeah. So when the piece is dry, you will, and we figure out how to get it to Benson, you will like wrap it completely in several layers of towels, which, you know, you can always wash later, right? Bath towels. So it's like cradled inside this nice foam. If you have a super fragile piece, you might have to have somebody drive you and you hold the piece in the passenger seat, all right?
Oh, that's wonderful. See, you never showed when I took that class from you. You didn't show us what's going on inside that kiln. You just get. I made a little box.
And it just appeared one day, right?
Yeah, and I don't. It wasn't ready when the class over. Remember?
Yeah, it takes a long time because I have to have enough pieces to fill up the kiln because it's wasteful. And then, especially like, you know, at Chastain, we have a huge gas kiln and it takes forever right now because not many people are able to bring pieces, you know, and some of the online classes, we don't have as many classes, but it takes a lot to fill up. And each kiln has to be loaded. You know, you just don't throw the pieces in there. You have to carefully place them. So it is a lot of work.
So do you kiln it when it's unpainted and paint afterwards when it comes out? Or do you sometimes put the paint before you kiln?
That's it's not paint, it's glaze. So that's if you wanted to put like glaze, which is glass, and you can use it becomes a functional piece like this. So then you would have glazing, and the glazing is a whole different animal. Okay, so if you wanted to glaze it, that's possible, but we do have restrictions. Like if you want super bright colors, it has to go at a lower temperature, and you know, all kinds of stuff. It's not as easy as, you know, going to those sip and stroke places and getting stuff done. I mean, you can do a lot of things. This is what you did, Vicki. You painted yours with the underglaze and you carved into it, right? So you got sgraffito, yeah. So here's like, so this is, you know, ceramics. But the inside of kiln actually, the pots actually become translucent like that. And it is extremely hot. On your pieces and any class pieces, I have to heat it up at 180 degrees for about 8 to 12 hours, depending on what your pieces are. And then I have to slowly take up the temperature to 1,000. What temperature is that anyway? 1,915 degrees to 1,971 degrees. But I have to go very slowly and it gets hot. And then the kiln turns off. And then I have to let it cool for 7 to 10 hours, depending on how high. I can't open the lid, okay? It'll break everything. So I have to let it cool down for 7 to 10 hours. And then I open the lid and some of the pieces will still be hot or warm. And then I unload it. So it's a long process, okay? In the olden days, it was pit farm. You just dug a pit, you put the pots in there with straw or wood, or actually they used a lot of animal dung, okay, dried out animal dung, and they piled it up and then they covered it with animal dung and whatever. And then they set it on fire and it burned for like, 24 hours or whatever, however long. And that's how they made the pottery. It didn't get as hot as our electric and gas kilns. And then there's a Japanese incline kiln where it's like on a hill. It's a hillside kiln, and they would just have all these huge chambers. And they would make the pots all year, and then they would fire the pot once or twice a year. And it would take a crew to working in shifts to stoke the fire with wood. Okay, you have to keep feeding it woods for like 14, 16 hours. Okay? And then once again, it has to cool down. And we look at the inside of the kiln to see what temperature it's at. But nowadays we have these things called cones. And they melt at a certain temperature, so we know exactly what temperature it is on the inside.
But why doesn't the clay melt or catch fire and burn?
If you have a clay that's formulated to melt at a lower temperature, it becomes a puddle. So that's why I have to be careful when that's why we have to restrict which clays are used at Benson, because I don't want any surprises and put something in the kiln and it melts because it ruins everything.
So you need to know what kind of clay we bought. It can't be that plastic kind of clay.
What you bought, that's why I need to know what it says on the box, what temperature it is and everything. And if it's suspicious and I'm still kind of wary about it, I'll put it in a dish. So if it melts, it'll melt into the dish, already fired dish, yeah. But that's why I'm hoping you will get it at Davin's, because now on the little pieces, you don't even have to fire it. If you want to jump right into making the big pieces, let's say Benson opened up next year, okay? Just bring that little unfired piece and, you just use that as, your visual aid and make your bigger sculpture.
I've got a 6-inch ruler right here. My piece that we're making right now can't be bigger than my hand or.
Yeah, you're probably going to want it like 6 inches or 8 inches or 10 inches, 10 inches max maybe. Yeah, you can make it small too. It might go out of control and end up, longer than that, but
does it shrink a little bit? Doesn't it shrink?
It's going to shrink as it dries, and when it goes in the kiln, it's going to shrink about 10%.
Okay.
So if you have something that's 3 feet tall, you're going to notice that shrinkage. Okay, but if you have a small piece, you're not going to really notice that shrinkage because it's a percentage. But the whole idea is for you to just kind of make some sketches of things. Now, it's really fun to go on, it's actually overwhelming to go on Pinterest and places like that and see what other people do. You can also look at paintings and then see if you can get some ideas and interpret that into a 3D sculptural object, okay? Any questions? Because right now you don't have clay, so we can't really, talk anymore.
Play with it, have fun with it, and then see what we come out with.
Yeah, and I want to see what you come up with. Huh?
Be like you said, be like I'm 3 or 4 years old again.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you really need to do. I mean, right now, you can learn the skills and the techniques to refine it. But the 3 or 4 year old is going to create from the heart. And that's what you need to get back in touch with.
Okay.
It doesn't mean you're immature. It doesn't mean you're childish. It just means that you're closer to your heart. Okay. Does that make sense, Sharon? Does that
Yes,
scare
it
you?
does. Yeah, it does. It really does. It
And
really
don't
does.
forget, there's no right or wrong.
I wish I could get my son to do this because he did like I can't think of the animal. I just say a seal on his back with eggs in a basket on it. That's how good it with eggs in a basket on his stomach. He's so good. I saved it as long as I could.
How old was he when he made that?
I don't remember, maybe 16. And my husband at the time, he saved it in his house. He had another house he just keeps, and he saved the piece. That's how they were nice.
Yeah.
That they were that nice.
Yeah, my daughter, I think she was 6 years old, and we were somewhere visiting a friend, and he had this big dog, a white dog. And I said, "Oh my God, there's a tick on him." And it was a tick that has swollen up, because it had sucked the blood. And then my daughter went home and drew a picture of it. And, it may not have been technically accurate, but man, she captured the feel of that blood swollen tick, all right. Yeah.
I've seen a dog like that. I've seen a dog like that.
Yeah. And then my son made a polar bear when he was small. And, it might be kind of out of proportion, but man, it feels like a polar bear. It looks like a polar bear. It acts like a polar bear. So yeah, we got to get back in touch with our inner self again, don't we? Yeah. Yeah.
So my last question. So when you use water to wash, that's all you need to clean your hands?
Yeah, just all you need. It's
because there's a black soap that the oil painting teacher told us about. I bought.
Oh, don't use that.
Okay.
Water. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I've been tempted to teach a class where we just use rocks, shells, and sticks for tools and water. Okay. Because people think that if you buy this tool, your end product's going to be fantastic. It's not, this is your tool right here. Okay. Your fingers, okay?
Thank God for plastic spoons and forks and knives.
Forks and knives, and I raid the kitchen a lot. Yeah. In the ceramics classes where we actually make functional pieces like casseroles and all that, you will have to steal the rolling pin out of the kitchen, and things like that, pie pans and things like that. But this one, you're just basically using your hands, and maybe when you carve, you need to find something that you can make sharp lines if you want sharp lines. Like I said, popsicle sticks, stuff in the kitchen, but the whole point is that you experiment.
Use your hands to make that flame. You just use your hand and
yeah, you saw me do that, right? Yeah. It's so pliable. And the cool thing about clay is it's so soft, it's so pliable, but after you fire it, it's stone. It's like stone. I mean, it's becomes solid and hard. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to have to cut this short because I can't talk anymore about anything else.
What time is your class? What's your hour? What's the range of your class hour? What is it?
This class is from 12 to 2.
12 to 2, okay.
But, if we had more people, it would, and if everybody was working on clay, because we'll be talking more, it will last longer. But with just the two of you, it may not last that long. We may not go all the way to 2, okay?
It's going to get out and people start taking away all of our time.
Yeah.
We got private lessons right now.
So you get private lessons. You're lucky. Yeah. Now, the other classes the morning classes are from 9 to 11. They're all 2 hours, okay? If you want to pop in and join the morning classes, we've already done the first session, the first class. I don't see why not. You can probably pick up, okay, if you want to make functional pieces. I think we're going to work on a mug next week in the functional piece one. And what's the other class? Oh, the planters. Oh, that'd be a fun class. I make you know, planters for small plants. Okay. Anything big, you're going to have too much of a challenge. So you got to get good at making stuff on the smaller scale first.
Well, I took another class and I learned how to work with pasteboard making things. So reconnecting with things that just round the house.
Yeah.
So and that's been good for me because I've been able to make some unique things out of just cardboard boxes.
Yeah, that's fun too. You just need a lot of glue, don't you?
Yeah, you got to have a little $5, $6 glue gun. And little glue things. I never had you. Those things are dangerous, but if you
Oh
learn,
my gosh. Have you burned yourself with the glue gun?
always I burned myself thinking I was gonna smooth the glue with my finger, and before I knew, oh my goodness,
You have to have a little bowl of cold water.
I do. I
Yeah,
had
I learned that the hard way.
the instructor said have some ice or in a
Yeah.
glass so it melts down. So I stuck my finger in there. I didn't blister, but
Oh,
before
I
I knew it,
blistered
I just
twice.
had to touch that glue,
Oh,
and I could
that-
smooth
and you
it
can't
out.
get it off because it's hot and it's on you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
let's not think about it. Okay. Any
I kind of
questions?
got over it, but it was okay.
Yeah. Any questions, Sharon? Don't get scared, okay?
I know I wrote down through. I
If
just
you
wrote
get
down
scared,
reconstruct. I want to know later on what reconstruct means. Reconstituate or whatever you said. You said reconstitute.
okay. It just means you add water to your dried out clay and it'll become wet again. It takes a long time, but eventually, or if you have a piece that's kind of dry, you can put it back in the bag and then add a little bit of water. And if your clay's too dry, just add small bits of water and kind of mix it around, small bits of water and mix it around, and it'll go back into the soft stage.
A small spray bottle. That's what I learned. I remember that.
You use a spray bottle. I don't use a spray bottle because I'm working in such a small space. And I'll end up spraying
that
everything.
Little bottle that you can spray.
Oh, the tiny bottle. That's a good idea. Yeah.
What did you say, Vicky?
If you want to wet something, you can just spritz it with a small spray bottle.
Okay.
Sometimes you buy something and it comes in a tiny spray bottle.
Okay.
Rinse it out really good and you can spritz it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So you think you can do this? Oh, hi, Sharita. I see you.
I enjoyed it. It really was.
I'm so glad you're back, Vicky. And don't forget when Benson opens back up, you can come get your piece.
I think it's so long. It's been so long ago.
Yeah. Well, I've been busy, so I can't tell. Okay, Sharita, we have to, because they don't have their clay, and this is more of an interactive class, we can't go any further than what we covered today.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to end it today, right now. And we will see you next week. And if you have friends that want to join us, oh, wait, Alka's just joined us. Okay. Let me tell Alka that it's probably best if she watches the video on YouTube, because I'm going to lose my voice if I have to go through the whole thing again.
Well, I've done poetry and I've done pot. I've tried to look at the pottery. I haven't been actually doing too much. And I also did the pasteboard class, art class.
That's cool. Okay. Alka, can you hear me? Can you talk? Put your microphone on.
Testing.
What?
Yeah. Hi, Helen.
Okay.
You hear me?
I am ending the class right now because the other two people don't have their clay, but you can go on YouTube. Sharita, I think it was Fulton. You go on youtube.com and then you have to search for Fulton County Senior Services.
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay. And then it should come up a list of videos, right?
Yes. So yeah, I normally upload on a Thursday.
Okay.
So don't think you're gonna like after right now go ahead and see it, but yeah, I normally upload them on that day.
So Alka, you have to wait until Thursday to see what we just covered. And what we just covered is all kinds of ideas and creating an abstract sculpture based on what fire means to you. And we did, in the end, we did kind of cover a few of the techniques work with your little tiny maquette sample. And then eventually, if you are interested, you can make a larger piece, not in this class, but maybe in another sculpture class, okay? So that's all going to be on the video. So, and you have to wait until tomorrow for Sharita to upload it to the YouTube site, okay?
Classes, yeah, looks like you have three classes. They all do different.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about. You have other classes?
I have 3 clay classes, and then I have one sewing machine 101 that is basic knowledge, because when I was teaching sewing, I didn't realize that most people, even though they may have had a sewing machine, may have sewn a long time ago,
Yes.
Really didn't know enough. Because remember back in the olden days, I'm talking about the 70s, we didn't have all these needle types. We didn't have all these synthetic fibers and fiber blends and all that, you know, all we had was cotton wool and all. So we didn't have all this complicated stuff. And we also didn't have all these cool gadgets, you know, and all kinds of other things you can do. So I have to cover all that. And that's on YouTube too. And I think Sharita's going to upload that tomorrow too.
That's true.
If you want to join that class, you can join that class. Maybe.
Yeah, I wanted to finding too late, I guess. Okay.
What time? What time?
What time? What?
Today's class.
Today's class is
the morning one was at the morning sewing class was at 9.
Oh,
this class
Today.
yeah, so that was at 9, and then this class starts at 12. So each of them are from 9 to 11, then from 12 to 2. And it's the same thing with the classes on yesterday too. 9 to 11, and then from 12 to 2.
So she's on Tuesday and Wednesday.
And Wednesday, yes.
Oh, great. That just helps the conflict I had. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, now,
Thank
okay, the sewing class, you know, it's kind of open-ended, but basically we're just covering basic knowledge, you know.
Yeah, I didn't mean to miss it, but I was busy. But I didn't see the other class.
In preparation for, you know, maybe going back to Benson or working on your own, okay?
When everything was so bad, I took the class, I took Charles' class one time. I was so far behind everybody. They were very good at painting, but at least we were on Zoom and we were just doing our own thing.
Yeah. And also, because we're recording this, you can watch it on YouTube before class. And you can watch it over and over and over if you wanted to. Okay. All right. So we'll see you guys next week. And hopefully you'll have your clay. Alka, you need to have clay for next week. Okay. And have your clay so we can talk about it and work on it. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Helen. Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.
Nice meeting you. Thank you for sharing your talent.